welcome to Beyond the News. I'm your host, AYESHA Khan. In tonight's edition of the program, we will be discussing Symposium on Alarming Population Growth held in Islamabad. Prime Minister reiterates Pakistan's support for Afghan peace in meeting with U.S. envoy. World Bank asks Pakistan and India to trade more via land. And Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou arrested in Canada. But first, our top story tonight, population control. A day-long symposium on an alarming population growth in Pakistan was held in Islamabad yesterday. Chief Justice of Pakistan Mia Saqib Nisar, who hosted this symposium at the Supreme Court, said that unchecked population growth is the most disastrous issue for Pakistan, which will even affect our water resources, which are continuously depleting. Regarding both of these intertwined issues, Chief Justice called on Prime Minister Imran Khan to delve into this matter in all seriousness. The top judge of Pakistan said that the apex court, which had created a task force in the past, presented its recommendations after holding a few sessions, but that is only the extent of their power. The task now is to implement these suggestions and to find more relevant solutions to tackle this menace. In his address, Prime Minister Imran Khan thanked Chief Justice for inviting him to discuss this important issue and expressed the nation's resolve to address the population growth in the country. The Prime Minister added that the rate at which population is growing and cities are spreading is having a devastating impact on our environment. While the Premier said that family planning campaigns had been effective in the past by airing ads on television, he did not directly state whether the government will launch a new campaign to tackle this problem head-on. Renowned educationist Babar Ali also spoke at the occasion. In his view, the matter of population growth is interlinked with the rise in poverty, and the two issues need to be dealt with comprehensive government policies. In his speech, celebrated Muslim scholar Maulana Tariq Jamil said that the biggest issue in the population growth is lack of knowledge, awareness and social pressure. Maulana Tariq Jamil said that mainly the villages and suburb areas of Sindh, Punjab, KP and Balochistan face the population growth issue because they don't have knowledge. And to further discuss this topic, we now join Zeba Sattar, the head and director of Population Council of Pakistan. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Tar.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
So firstly, both Bangladesh and Iran are deemed as success stories when we talk about population control. Both are also Muslim countries. So why haven't previous governments of Pakistan taken this issue seriously?
Thank you, Aisha. I want to point out first of all that both Bangladesh and Iran implemented what we call voluntary family planning programs, and not really tackle the whole issue in terms of population control, as we refer to the Chinese experiment experience. So in Bangladesh provides us a really close comparison with Pakistan, because right at the time when the two sections of Pakistan split, Bangladesh from the beginning, the political leadership took the issue of rapid population growth very seriously. They provided family planning services, made them very readily available in communities, in clinics, and went about it very seriously. It was a political priority that crossed over. There were a lot of, as you know, they keep changing political government, but they never faltered in their intent to do something, to continue to provide services. This is a total contrast to Pakistan, where nobody has, apart from very early work in Ayub Khan's days and during the Benazir Bhutto government, when we had the Lady Health Worker program in the 90s, we did meet with a lot of success. There hasn't been a public proclaimment that or of an intent that we should do something about lowering our fertility rates. And Iran is really a unique example, because they started, actually the religious clergy really approved of family planning and publicly declared it as a priority only as far back as 1992, but have surpassed our, in terms of lowering the fertility rates, much surpassed our progress. And so we have experiences on the left and the right of us in the neighborhood of really exemplary situations where the political leadership really realized what is desirable in terms of a balance of population resources.
Well, what specific lessons can Pakistan learn from other countries in terms of controlling population growth?
Yeah, I think the first thing is not to go about it as control, but more in terms of meeting people's needs. And our research really shows that far back as the 90s, Pakistani couples have what we call unmet needs. At the moment, it's about 20%. It's been higher than that. 20% or more of Pakistani couples want to have fewer children. They want spacing between their children, but are unable to access services or information. Now, these are one of the highest rates across the region. We have also found out that Pakistani women are having as many as 2 million abortions a year. This is a huge number. So we know that married couples are in desperate need of family planning information and services. But unfortunately, our health system, our public health system, and even our private health system do not offer these services. So the real lesson learned, which was actually reaffirmed by the event yesterday through the task force recommendations, and actually this was a public announcement of accepting those recommendations, is basically that the public health system and the private healthcare system have to really offer these services, because Pakistani couples are more or less very ready to use them if they are available.
Well, education and awareness can enable good reproductive health indicators for the country. So what kind of policies can the current government introduce regarding this?
Yeah, I think you point out to the fact that we need good, solid, well-developed, locally catered for communications campaigns, and those two have been largely missing for the last 2 decades. You get the occasional spurt of a couple of ads, but that doesn't really amount to too much. We need a concerted campaign pointing out where services are available and making them more, promoting a healthy discussion. That's been missing. So there's all quiet and sort of, coyness about discussing what is a central, I would say, a public health priority, which is to provide voluntary family planning services to married couples. So I think the communications campaigns should incorporate whatever fears or misgivings Pakistanis have about practicing family planning, including the religious point of view, which now is very clearly supportive of the use of family planning for birth spacing between children to promote healthy lives for mothers and children. So, this was also a unique feature of yesterday's event, that somebody like Maulana Tariq Jamil, you mentioned that, stood in an audience in front of 600 people and really said that yes, education is a must, and spreading awareness amongst uneducated couples in Sindh and southern Punjab would be a huge priority, because that's where the need is the greatest. So I hope that government stays with this intent and really provides resources into a strong communication campaign.
So I just want to build on what you said. Do you think that a community-based approach to tackling population growth can work for Pakistan?
Absolutely. Actually, you asked me about Bangladesh, and I think both Bangladesh and Iran have strong community outreach, and we've adopted both the models. We adopted the village-based family planning worker model from Bangladesh, which was a worker goes into households, and it's a woman, usually from the community, and she promotes, she gives families knowledge about healthy seeking behavior, about contraceptives, and about where to go in terms of, and actually offers contraceptives at the doorstep. And the same goes for Iran. They do have community health workers, which we followed in terms of the Lady Health Workers scheme in 1994 under the Benazir Bhutto government. And I think that the Lady Health Worker scheme is one of the things that Pakistan can be really proudest of. When the lady health workers were really delivering family planning as a priority in the 90s, that's when our fertility levels fell fastest. So community outreach is an absolute must. You've got to spot on, definitely.
Well, lastly, I'd just like to get your take on this. Should the Health Ministry announce a new campaign of ads to play on television advocating for family planning, because it has been proven to be quite effective in the past?
Absolutely. I think it's high time, as I mentioned, a strong, well-developed communication campaign. It's, including things on social media, chat shows, etc. So it's not just ads promoting family planning, but really building up the rationale. The benefits of family planning are huge for families, for communities, for society, for the unborn children, actually. I mean, there was a nice song by Shahzad Roy yesterday on the rights of the child, and, what we need to ensure that every child that's born in Pakistan is really indeed wanted and has a good future in terms of getting education and good health. So I think those sort of ads promoting contraceptive use as a healthy, positive thing, I think is an absolute must. The military must do this.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Sattar. And once again, that was Zeba Sattar, the Director of Population Council of Pakistan. And now let's move on to a quick break. We'll be back with more news. Thank you for staying with us. A senior U.S. general has informed Congress that Pakistan knows very clearly that there can be no peace in Afghanistan without their assistance, and that the United States has to make it attractive for them to cooperate with the U.S. authorities in order to bring peace in Afghanistan. These comments were made by Lieutenant General Kenneth McKenzie, the next commander of the U.S. Central Command, who was making these comments to the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee, stating that the death toll of the Afghan security forces was unsustainable, and that's why Pakistan's role was crucial in bringing peace in the war-torn nation. Moreover, the general stated that the crisis in Afghanistan requires a regional solution and not just a single solution that solely centers on Afghanistan to resolve the decades-old conflict, claiming that the peace was best in Pakistan's own interest as well. However, the general also cautioned the Senate, stating that so far Pakistan has shown little signs of cooperation. Hence, in this regards, we saw this week U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan Reconciliation, Mr. Zalmay Khalilzad, calling on Prime Minister Imran Khan just yesterday at the Prime Minister House, conveying good wishes sent by Donald Trump, and stressing that the U.S. leadership was looking forward to working with Pakistan in furthering the shared goal of peace through a political settlement in Afghanistan. Therefore, we saw Prime Minister Imran Khan yesterday also reiterating Pakistan's view of its commitment for a political statement in Afghanistan too. Furthermore, the Prime Minister Khan, in his meeting with U.S. Special Envoy, also expressed the importance of boosting regular bilateral engagement as priority areas, especially trade, investment, education, health, and social sector development, in order to bring peace in the entire South Asian region. Today, addressing his federal cabinet, Prime Minister Imran Khan said that he is quite happy that for the first time in past 15 years, the United States has recognized that there cannot be any military solution to the Afghan war. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Imran Khan and Chief of the Army Staff also held a meeting yesterday. However, since there was no independent verification of the agenda of this meeting, it is widely speculated that Afghan security situation and U.S. Special Envoy's visit to Pakistan would have been under discussion. However, according to official statement from the Prime Minister office, later stated that matters relating to the armed forces and overall security situation of the country were discussed during the meeting without elaborating any further details. And now let's move on to a quick break. We'll be back with more news. Thank you for staying with us. Pakistan's economy is in dire need of some divine intervention. While the rupee continues to depreciate at regular intervals, the stock market is also losing much volume due to the bear market trend. Now, it has been learned that Pakistan's external debt and liabilities soared to a record $96.7 billion by the end of September 2018. This figure is also remarkably understated by $3 billion. As the State Bank of Pakistan did not explicitly show the debt taken from China for shoring up foreign currency reserves. The figure in reality could be nearly $100 billion. Facing all these macroeconomic challenges, Pakistan is currently negotiating a bailout package from the International Monetary Fund. Regarding this bailout, the IMF representative in Pakistan, Teresa Daban Sanchez, said that Pakistan will need to address its fiscal imbalances for the right implementation of its adjustment policies. And this should be the main focus for Islamabad, as further investment and development depends upon these policies. In its recent report on South Asia, the World Bank has suggested that Pakistan and India should trade more via land, as they have a potential to reach bilateral trade worth of $37 billion. But unfortunately, political and border tensions have resulted in a broader trust deficit that do not make this free trade possible at the moment. This is happening despite the fact that Prime Minister Imran Khan has repeatedly offered a hand to the Indian government as a sign of goodwill and peace. More developments have been made to curtail money laundering and to bring looted money back to Pakistan. Mirza Shehzad Akbar, who's advisor to the Prime Minister and heads the Assets Recovery Unit, announced that Pakistan has recently signed agreement on exchange of information about assets of citizens. Under this agreement, the Swiss authorities would provide details of Pakistanis' assets stashed in Switzerland within the next 6 weeks. Well, to further discuss the prevailing economic concerns, we now join Dr. Shahid Hassan Siddiqui, an eminent economist. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Siddiqui.
Thank you.
So first, the external debt liabilities have nearly touched $100 billion. Does the government have any plan to pay off these loans?
See, unfortunately, what is happening in Pakistan for a number of years, that we have been taking new loans, and from that we will repay the old loan. So this holds good for domestic deposits as well as foreign deposits. We have never had the surplus exports and the balance of payment position so that we can repay them. So our external liability continues to increase because we take $100 new loan and repay 70 of that external loans. So net rise is there, but the repayments are always from the fresh loans.
Well, Pakistan borrows from several sources to carry out infrastructural investment. How should the government manage these debts in a better way?
See, the thing is that if we enhance our resources, we enhance our exports, we enhance our tax revenues, and our rate of growth is accelerated, then our capacity to generate funds is enhanced, and we will be able to repay the loans and the liabilities that we incur from the external resources. But unfortunately, what we have been doing is that instead of enhancing our resources, we have been depending on loans, credit, aid, privatization of the assets, and that has never helped us in the real sense, because we have been violating the Fiscal Responsibility and Debt Limitation Act, and due to which we have to keep our liability under as a percentage of GDP. That has been constantly violated, and there is no sincere effort to enhance the resources. Pakistan today, as a percentage of GDP in respect of taxes, national savings, and investment, we are receiving about 12,000 billion rupees less each year, and that is compensated by the fresh loans, privatization of assets, and reducing the allocation for education, health, safe drinking water, and social sector, and that unfortunately has become a routine for us.
Well, what do you make of the agreement between Pakistan and Switzerland that will enable the authorities to see the details of bank accounts and wealth stash abroad? Is this a positive and commendable step?
The thing is that suppose 100 rupees are looted from the national exchequer in Pakistan, then 40% is transferred abroad through various means in various parts of the world, and 60% remains within the country. Now, whatever is within the country, we can call it domestic Panamas. They are well in the control of the government of Pakistan. We have got details of assets, properties, bank deposits, vehicles, bonds, stock exchange shares. And from that, it is 100% guaranteed that we can recover the looted money. But the government is not making any effort for recovery of this amount. And we have been having a political slogan that the looted money from the abroad will be transferred back. Now, there is an international convention, and now under which the other governments are under obligation to enter into agreements and provide details of the assets, bank deposits and properties, etc. So even if some information is received by us, there is no guarantee that the amount will return back, because then that government will have to decide whether that money was transferred in that country, say in this case Switzerland, and that is the illegal money or not. It will be sole discretion of theirs. So in near future, we shouldn't be expecting any real gain. So it's more a political slogan. But what we can do really succeed, and according to my research, the amount is about 1,500 billion rupees that can be recovered easily in about 6 months to a year from the domestic assets. Foreign assets is a very lengthy, long process, and nothing is guaranteed. But we should continue our efforts. We have got certain details of assets about UAE and Britain, and Switzerland may also supply the information. But that does not mean that the amount will be received by us. There are a number of stages in that the process will continue, and then they will decide whether to give that money back to Pakistan, or they say that it is not diluted money.
Well, World Bank has said that Pakistan and India should engage in free trade via road networks. Do you think that this is possible in the current political climate?
See, the thing is that India's attitude towards Pakistan has been always very aggressive. A few years back, there was hardly any trade between the two countries, and there was a school of thought that if we enhance our trade between the two countries, then atmosphere will be created where the disputes could be resolved. But the experience shows that the quantum of trade went up significantly, and that was in favor of India. But political tension didn't change. So I think it's not practicable really in the present circumstances. When India's attitude is that they are having terrorism in Pakistan through Afghanistan, and they have a financial terrorism with us, they have got a water terrorism with us, and they send terrorists and drugs to Pakistan. So I don't think that this is practicable in the near future.
With more and more challenges of the economy, there are reports that Prime Minister Imran Khan is dissatisfied with the performance of Finance Minister Asad Umar. Do you think there are reasons to believe that his job might be on the line next?
I think the policies of the PTI government have failed regarding the improvement in the economy. But the blame would squarely lie on the cabinet and on the federal government, because unless they frame laws for enhancement of tax revenues and other things, finance minister couldn't do anything. What is exactly happening is that what is the manifesto of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf? They have some newcomers in the party who got the tickets. There are 4, 5, 6 parties who have joined them with the government. So they are a hindrance in the formation of policies and laws in the Provincial Assembly, Punjab, KP, and also in the center. So I don't really think that the finance minister has failed. Whatever policies he frames, if the parliament doesn't support them, then the economy would not improve. So in my opinion, the fault lies with the cabinet, the Provincial Assembly, and the federal government. And they are not sincere for reforms. That's why the rate of growth of economy is going down, budget deficit is going up, and the quantum of debt is going up, and inflation is going up, and there is hardly the allocation for education and health is going down. All for that, I blame the cabinet, the Provincial Assembly, and the Senate and the National Assembly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Siddiqui. And once again, that was Dr. Shahid Hassan Siddiqui, an eminent economist. Now let's move on to a quick break. We'll be back with more news. Welcome back. The chief financial officer of the Chinese telecom giant Huawei, Meng Wanzhou, has been arrested in Canada and also faces extradition to the United States over possible violation of sanctions against Iran by her company. Meng Wanzhou is one of the vice chairs on the company's board and the daughter of Huawei's founder Ren Zhengfei, who has close links with the China's Communist Party. Her arrest will subsequently impact the political and economic tensions between the United States and China. The news came as Washington and Beijing began their months of negotiations aimed at de-escalating their bruising trade war. And we will see this happen over the next 3 months. The nations are engaged in a trade war that has seen both impose duties of billions of dollars on each other's goods. In a statement, Canada's Department of Justice confirmed her arrest, but did not say much about the extradition. China's embassy in Canada protested at the arrest and demanded her immediate release. On the other hand, Huawei in their company statement said that it had little to information about their charges and was not aware of any wrongdoing by Ms. Meng. According to risk consultancy AYESHA Group, Beijing is likely to react angrily to this latest arrest, which means that all the gloves are now fully off for this tacit battle to play out. It should be noted that U.S. authorities have been probing Huawei, which is one of the world's largest makers of telecommunications network equipment, since at least 2016 for allegedly shipping U.S. origin products to Iran and other countries in violation of U.S. export and sanctions laws. Just in recent times, Huawei has poured in billions of dollars in securing important patents for the 5G technology, which is the next step in data transmission. Similarly, in a report released in 2012 by the U.S. Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Huawei and ZTE Corporation, both of them being China's technological giants, were tagged as potential threats to U.S. security interests. Seeing China's hostile takeovers of American manufacturers, U.S. President Donald Trump earlier this year even blocked Broadcom's limited bid for American microchip manufacturer Qualcomm following a recommendation by U.S. security agency. The concerns over the deal were said to stem from Broadcom's ties to Huawei. Well, that is all for tonight. Be sure to tune back in tomorrow, where we'll take you beyond the news.